Rents grew faster than wages in 88% of US metros since 2019, amid affordability crisis. Now, I'm sure that not a single one of you is surprised. And to be fair, it is not all bad news because in the last few months to a year, wages have actually kept up with rents. However, they haven't gotten ahead of rents. So as a result of that, it is mostly bad news. So as you can see here, wages for typical US workers have surged since the pandemic, and we'll talk about that statement in just a second. But for many Americans, those gains are being gobbled up by rent. Rents jump 30.4% nationwide between 2019 and 2023, while wages during that same period rose just 20.2%, according to a recent analysis from online real estate brokers Zillow and StreetEasy. The gap between wage growth and rent increases was the widest in large cities, which kind of makes sense, including Atlanta, Charlotte, North Carolina, and Miami, Phoenix, and Tampa. Other cities where renters were feeling the pinch include Baltimore, Cincinnati, Las Vegas, New York, and San Diego. And then here is a graph talking about which cities have seen their rent unaffordability basically go up the most. And this is actually something that I'm experiencing as well. I'm not going to dox myself by telling you which of these cities I live in, but my rent is going up pretty significantly as well. And as a result, I am moving out of this space that you see here. I simply cannot afford to live here anymore. And honestly, that kind of sucks. But I do want to explain this wages have surged for the US worker since the pandemic statement. It's referring to this article here. Wages surged for the lowest paid Americans after the pandemic. Between 2019 and 2022, the lowest paid saw their real income grow 9%, according to a new analysis from the Economic Policy Institute. Even accounting for inflation, income for workers in the bottom 10% grew faster than any recovery since 1979. It's incredibly unusual how well they did, Ellis Gold, EPI senior economist and one of the report's authors, said. Wage growth at the bottom of the 10%. There's a really great graph here. Between 1979 and 1982, there was a pretty significant downturn in the growth, and then it spiked a little bit, and then the 90s and then the 2000s, it was basically static. And then from 2019 to 2022, it grew pretty substantially. And this may not feel like it if you are in the bottom 10%, but I have fact-checked this data, and it is correct. You did see wages grow for the bottom 10%, 9% from 2019 to 2022. The only issue is when your rent grows by 30% and your wages only went up by 9%, well, you get the idea that news is not as good as it might appear. Now, I want to talk about what caused this and what we can do about it and so on. But first, if you enjoy this kind of business news and updates, I post 3 to 5 times a week, but I'd love a subscription and to see you around here on another video. So let's talk about what caused this and what we can do about it. But first, I want to talk about what didn't cause this because this is very relevant. This is not been caused by large corporations buying up all the single family homes. And before you hate, please just hear me out. This is by State Line, and it's a summary of an investigation done by CoreLogic on who is buying up houses that's causing rental prices to go up. And this is an excerpt from it. Large-scale rental house landlords often are blamed for rent hikes, but still represent a tiny portion of single-family homes, said David Howard, director of the National Rental Home Council in Washington, D.C., a trade group representing single-family home landlords. The idea that large, faceless, deep-pocketed, out-of-town investors are taking over every housing market and dictating rent is just not true, Howard said, speaking of what he called a half dozen companies with tens of thousands of homes nationwide. The CoreLogic data show that what it calls mega investors with 1,000 homes or more bought 3% of houses last year and in 2022, compared with just about 1% in previous years, with the bulk of investor purchases being made by smaller groups. Big scary names are being thrown around with claims that large corporations are buying up all the single-family rental homes, things like BlackRock, Blackstone, Vanguard. These are being blamed for all of the problems when realistically and more likely, it's local landlords that own 3 to 10 houses that are buying up more houses in order to make more rental income. And theoretically, this shouldn't be as much of an issue because if there are small local landlords, maybe 20 or 30 in a local area that own a lot of the rental housing, then they have to compete with each other in order to get your dollars. And as a result of them competing with each other, that should drive prices down. The basis of capitalism is good, healthy competition. There's several hundred people in the market that offer a similar or comparable product, and so they compete against each other to try and either offer better products or the same product at a lower price, and that way consumers get what is essentially either a product they want at the cheapest price or a superior product at a slightly higher price. However, because we're not really seeing rents come down, that must mean that landlords are not having to compete against each other in this way in order to actually bring these rents down to a more market rate. And that brings us to the first reason that this is happening, price fixing. Attorney General Mays sues RealPage and residential landlords for illegal price-fixing conspiracy. Attorney General Chris Mays today announced a lawsuit against RealPage Incorporated and 9 other major apartment landlords operating in Arizona for conspiracy to illegally raise rents for hundreds of thousands of Arizona renters in the Phoenix and Tucson area metro areas. RealPage is a software company that offers what it calls, quote, revenue management, unquote, to its clients, including those named as its co-defendants in the lawsuit. So RealPage is a property management company that offers this thing called dynamic price. And so all the landlords in the area would be on this one property management platform, and then this algorithm would set their rental rates. And allegedly, according to the lawsuit, because everyone in an area was using the same platform and the same algorithm, the algorithm would just jack all the rents up. According to the lawsuit, there was basically no competition. Everyone in the area agreed to use the prices that the software set, and so it just raised all the prices across the board. There was no more competition. If every small business owner in an area agrees to double the price of eggs, well, you still have to buy eggs, and all the prices are just doubled. There's not really that much you can do about it. Now, this did just happen in Arizona. This is where the lawsuit is coming out of, but I would bet basically any amount of money that it's happening everywhere else because RealPage is a large national brand, one of the most popular ones. And if this is happening, then every landlord that is taking advantage of the system in this way needs to be sued out of existence and banned from ever owning real estate again as long as they live. Now, that was the first big reason. The second big reason this is happening is that there's just not enough homes. Report, the U.S. housing market is deficient of 4 million homes. Bank of America housing analysts say that, quote, underbuilding of U.S. homes over the past decade has not only absorbed the 2 to 3 million home glut from pre-financial crisis overbuilding, but has also created a deficit of 4 million U.S. homes. Simply put, Bank of America analysts say that we went from an overbuilt nation to an underbuilt nation over the past decade. The most direct solution for housing shortage problem is to build more homes, wrote Bank of America analysts in a paper published this fall, which examined that the markets are and aren't addressing this deficit. Imagine a city with 1,000 residents and only 100 homes for sale. Well, you can imagine that the price would go up because the 1,000 residents are all competing for a very small number of homes, and most likely the wealthiest of the residents would pay the most money for the homes, and they would be the one to get the homes. That'd be 100 residents with houses and 900 residents without. Now imagine that same small town has 1,000 residents, but it has 500 homes for sale. Well, sure, the price will still go up because there's still more residents that want to buy homes and are willing to offer more and more money than there are actually homes for sale. But the price won't go up as much because there are way more homes, so fewer people are willing to negotiate higher because there's another option that they have. In that instance, prices go up, but they go up way less. Now imagine there's 1,000 residents and 1,000 homes. Well, now it's just whatever market rate dictates it would be if supply and demand are equal. Now, there is a very reasonable argument for limiting the amount of single-family homes that large corporations are allowed to buy. Absolutely, I totally get that. But this would have such a small, minute impact on the overall price of the housing market that I don't think it would be anywhere near enough. Some specific cities like Austin or San Francisco or Atlanta might see more significant drops, but on a national average, almost nothing would change because so few houses are actually purchased by these large corporations. We need something else to happen. And this could look like tax incentives, or governments building homes and then selling them at cost, or repealing zoning laws so that local construction companies are able to build more, so on and so forth. There's a lot of options that we can do, and basically we as a country are not doing any of them. The crisis remains until we build more houses. Thanks for watching.